So let's go over failure number 1. The main theme of the Cell games is trauma and power unleashed. And the Cell games represent the first catastrophic eruption of Gohan's internal conflict. He was thrust into the arena against his own will, carrying the weight of the world and his father's seemingly inexplicable fate, and the pressure was immense. Gohan did not want to fight Cell. Gohan thought Goku was going to beat him. He went and trained with Goku because he was his dad and he liked it. But he never thought that Gohan was not able to defeat him. He never thought that Vegeta would not be able to defeat him. He just thought that he was going to be there, and who knows, maybe he has to fight, but he won't be the deciding factor in the fight. Yet, it was not the pressure alone that broke him, but it was a specific, devastating trigger. And it was one of the most famous, one of the most beautiful, and one of the most powerful scenes a human can witness with his own eyes on television. This was the destruction of Android 16, an automation, an AI, a robot who had shown Gohan unexpected kindness and an articulated defense of life, and that served as the catalyst. The gentle Gohan, for him, this was not merely a destruction of an ally. It was a profound, traumatic event, a senseless act of cruelty that shattered his emotional restraints, and that was misunderstood by his dad and by Piccolo. We thought that finally Gohan had reached his full potential, but no, he only broke barrier number 1. And the result of this was the legendary transformation of Super Saiyan 2. And it was beautiful. It was wholesome to see, with tears down his eyes. It was finally a moment that we've all waited for all this time in Dragon Ball Z and in Dragon Ball. However, Gohan had not yet fulfilled his prophecy. This power was not born of control or discipline. It was purely an eruption, fueled entirely by unrestrained rage. And it is here, and right here, where we observe the first psychological breakdown, understandable through specific theoretical lenses. And this theoretical lens is the one of psychology. And this, what theoretical lens will explain this, is the theory of trauma-induced aggression and power intoxication. And psychological principles recognize that profound traumatic experiences, especially in youth, and doesn't get much younger than Gohan, can trigger intense, sometimes uncharacteristic aggressive responses. And this isn't necessarily cruelty. It can actually be fueled for good, but it is a reaction to overwhelming pain and helplessness. And separately, the concept of power intoxication describes how a sudden, dramatic increase in personal power can impair judgment and foster feelings of invincibility and inflate the ego, leading to a risky, irrational behavior. This theory is well understood and well portrayed by Vegeta when he becomes Super Vegeta, when he becomes Vegeta Blue, and when he becomes Majin. All of this, it is really encompassed by Vegeta during those times. And this association with Gohan is the fact that the destruction of Android 16 served as the acute trauma. Gohan's subsequent desire to make Cell suffer, to make the Cell Jr. suffer for all the pains they cause, and for all the pain that Cell caused, the absorption of the androids, the terror, the fear, the psychological trauma that he induced upon everyone, the killing of Trunks, the killing of Tien, killing quote unquote. That was all fueled by an immediate resolution that aligns with a trauma-induced aggressive reaction, lashing out at the source of his pain, and simultaneously the unprecedented surge to Super Saiyan 2 induced this so-called power intoxication. And this combination explains the dialogue, "I'm going to make you suffer, Cell." This is what he said to Cell. He said he didn't want to kill him, he'll make him suffer. He made him become Cell's second form. He humiliated Cell, who was supposed to be perfect, one-shotted the Cell Juniors, and his taunts about Cell inadequacy and his brutal punishing fighting style made him feel invincible, and he prioritized inflicting pain on Cell over neutralizing the threat. And this was a direct result of the trauma fueling the intoxication from his power. We can associate this with impaired executive function, especially under extreme emotional states. Executive functions in humans, and we can say in Saiyans as well, since he's half human, are the brain's higher level cognitive processes responsible for planning, reasoning, impulse control, emotional regulation, and decision making. Crucially, these functions can become significantly impaired or even put offline on the condition of extreme emotional duress, such as intense rage or intense terror. And then, the overwhelming rage that Gohan experienced was precisely such an extreme emotional state. This impaired his executive functions. It shut down his capacity for irrational planning and impulse control. He was no longer there anymore. And the starkest evidence of this is his complete disregard of his father that he looked up to, that he loved, that he cared for, that wanted to be like him. He didn't care about Goku's pleas to finish Cell off. He did not care about Gohan telling him this. He did not care about his best friend Trunks telling him this. He was not there anymore. He was psychologically and physiologically incapable of regulating this impulse to punish, and he demonstrated a clear breakdown in executive control driven by the emotional overload he was feeling. And all of this, guys, is a stark manifestation of Gohan's internal conflict that we introduced in the beginning. His Saiyan nature, the raw power of aggression, exploded forth destructively and entirely overwhelmed his nervous system and his human personality and his moral compass. It was power that was untethered from his usual control. Gohan had bursts of god tier power, but it was never to the point where he took over his body and took control of his persona. Yes, sometimes he acted on impulses like any human, and especially a half-breed Saiyan, but the outcome was tragically direct this time. The delay, born from psychological collapse, afforded Cell the opportunity to initiate his self-destruction. When he was second form, he said, "You little insect," to Gohan, and he said, "Enough of this, he's gonna explode," and that forced Goku's sacrifice. So Gohan's first great failure was not simple arrogance, guys, like we understand initially when we see it, but it was the consequences of trauma overwhelming his underdeveloped coping mechanism for such immense power and volatile emotions. So I want to take the blame off of Gohan for a bit and explain away that yes, it was physically Gohan there, but at the same time, it wasn't really him. No one recognized him. Goku did not recognize him. He never showed such arrogance. He had never shown such disdain from listening to his father, for disdain for another person. He warned Cell multiple times. Gohan was at his true self when he was a Super Saiyan 1, but as a Super Saiyan 2, when he finally had a taste of the power, it took over and overwhelmed his nervous system, and he was not present anymore. This is why we can take the blame off of Gohan, and we can say this failure was not his fault, and even worse, it cascaded into something that he will forever remember and regret.